everybody. Is everybody having a good time tonight already? All right. Thank you all so much for coming out tonight. This is SBC Unfiltered. This is our second event. We put it together on the fly after such big success in October. We started out with an idea that we wanted to get 200 signatures from people in the 18 to 35-year-old age group saying that they want to come to this event, that they want to be engaged with the candidates who want to run the city, they want to have their voices heard. We managed to do that within the time that we set out, and we were really proud of our people. We set out to find the candidates who were going to come, and basically all of them came too, didn't they, Casey?
We did. We did, and we're just so excited about the support that y'all have given us through this whole process. It's very encouraging to go out and talk to young people in this community and hear them say, yes, I do have a voice and I want people to hear it and I want to get excited about local government. So without y'all, we couldn't put this on. So just know that you were the superstars tonight. Anyway, we're about to kick things off with our city council candidates. So Adam, who's up?
First up, we've got Mr. Durwood Henricks Jr. and James Fleury. They are running in City Council District E. And they're going to give a brief introduction, tell you a little bit about who they are. We'll ask them a little icebreaker question to get things going, and then we're going to kind of open it up to y'all. Just raise your hand, we'll get you over here. You can ask your question. You can ask your question and sit down if you want, or you can ask your question and continue to engage them. Each of them is going to have a chance to respond. So right now I'm going to ask them to come up here and introduce themselves, guys.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Good evening. All right, how about that? I want to say thank you to SBC Unfiltered for this opportunity. It was likewise a concern of mine for the age group of people that really weren't being represented when the voting, when it was time to vote. But a little bit about myself. My name is Durwood Hendricks. I'm a veteran, served in Desert Storm, and now I want to serve you in the community of District E. I feel that I've worked with a number of people, different ranges of people that allows me the opportunity, or has afforded me the opportunity to help people work together. And that's what I want to do on our city council, is help people to work together and not be so divisive and divided about things that really don't amount to a hill of beans. And that's why I'm running. I'm 134 on your ballot. Thank you very much.
Since I'm the grandpa, I'll sit down. I'm James Fleury. I believe that experience matters. I served 12 years in Ward 7, which is basically District E, as Justice of the Peace. And I know what it is to help people solve problems. I also served as President and Chairman of the Board of the Louisiana Motor Transport Association and received the T.H. Davidge Service Award from that group. I've been married 45 years, and I'm looking forward to serving Southern Hills, Summer Grove, and as far over as Slack Industrial Park and over to Forest Park Cemetery is the other boundary. But I look forward to working and helping move Shreveport ahead forward in a positive manner. And I ask for your vote, number 133.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. I'm not going to hog the microphone tonight. Tonight's about the people here asking questions, but I will get us started. Shreveport has been called the next great city of the South over and over again, but I want to hear what you people have to say about how we're going to get there, what are the biggest obstacles in our way, and where the city council fits in for fixing, the problems that are, keeping us from being the best we can.
I agree. Shreveport is poised to become the next great city of the South. When we look at Shreveport and how we're situated, we have two major interstates that intersect Shreveport. We have I-20 and I-49. We also have this river that divides Shreveport and Bossier City, that we have a port that we're bringing businesses in. Shreveport is poised right now to become the next great city. One of the major things that we look at right now, other than the streets need to be fixed, is the economics of Shreveport. We need to bring more businesses. We need to make it more attractive for businesses to want to come into Shreveport. How do we do that? I'm glad you asked. We may need to give them some things that, you know, would attract them to come in. Maybe lower some taxes for them, just enough to get them in here to get people to working. One of the things that I hear young people say is that I want to go to school, you know, and I don't want to come back to Shreveport because there are no jobs in Shreveport. Well, we have to change that. We don't do it just by talking about it. You have to do something. You have to go out and court companies to come into Shreveport. As I've gone canvassing my neighborhood and talking with people, you know, I find out some of the things that they want here. I hear people we need a Dave & Buster's in Shreveport. I agree. So as soon as I make it on the city council, what I'm going to do is go talk to some Dave & Buster's owners and say, hey, you know, present a proposal to them. There are other businesses that we need here in Shreveport that can, in the Southern Hills area. The businesses, first of all, they have to go along with each other. You know, it doesn't make sense to put a business next to another business that either takes business from that business or it had been studied enough to show that these businesses can work together to make the community stronger. And that's one of the things that I plan on doing is working with the city as a whole, the city council as a whole, and trying to bring some economic growth into Shreveport. Thank you.
I began my campaign in August on 3 things: jobs, public safety, and government efficiency. Let me tell you about jobs. The population in District E has decreased severely. We got a lot of empty homes. What has happened, the young people have moved to Stonewall, Greenwood, and Bossier Parish. The statistics show that they have. And what we need to do is find jobs for folks that graduate, their children can come back to Shreveport to make a living. Small business creates more jobs than anything in America. And we need to have a business-friendly city government. Now, I include in that, when you call City Hall, it is a nightmare. Their customer service, we need to have, first thing, the administration needs to have customer service 101. As I walk door to door in District E, elderly people tell me to call down there and to get hung up on. That's not acceptable. The second thing that will move Shreveport is public safety. As I walk, the people come to the door on the walkers and they tell me, I say, well, who helped you get your medicine? Who helps you get your groceries? And they say, well, I have some. But sir, what I'm going to ask you is, are you going to keep me safe? So we need a stronger community policing program. That program is not working. The policemen are not getting in the neighborhoods, visiting with the people. It's unacceptable. Now let me tell you, government efficiency, we spend 70% of our revenue comes from taxes and what they say, special assessments. 70%. We give the city marshal $1.5 million. Can we afford that? So if we don't get our finances in order, ladies and gentlemen, we will possibly become the next Detroit. We must get our spending. We have not a revenue problem, but we have a spending problem. And we need to look at that seriously to make Shreveport grow, because we need to get our taxes down. Thank you.
All right, thank you all for that honest answer. Now I want to open it up to some people in the age group we were looking for, 18 to 35. Stick your hand up. Who's got a question? I know somebody does. Nobody already. Michelle does.
So I'm really interested in finding out about
Go to the microphone.
city streets and with the city taking money from the streets special revenue fund over the past couple of years. Where do you think the money to fix Shreveport streets is going to go?
Good question. Her question was, where's the money going to come from to fix our streets? The money's there. The money, once the council, but the problem is they're not in sync with each other right now. There's too much divisiveness going on right now, too much division. And what that's allowing not to happen is for people to say, hey, we want this amount of money to be allocated to these streets and these neighborhoods. Some neighborhoods don't need as much care of the streets as others do. You go in some neighborhoods and pretty much all the streets are tore up. You know, quite naturally, they're going to need more money in that neighborhood to fix those streets. So what it boils down to is being able to get along with each other, first of all, in city council, and have common sense approach about, you know, getting things done need to get done. The infrastructure in Shreveport, you know, it's bad right now, but it's at a point where something has to happen. Did I answer your question?
Would you be, to balance the budget, would you continue to use money from the street special revenue fund?
To answer that question, I would have to look at everything as a whole. I can't just sit there and say I will just stop taking money out of the street fund for that, but you have to look at the budget as a whole. There may be some areas, you know, when you look at the budget, you know, we do a study on it to see, hey, we have more money allocated to this that we really don't need, and we can look at, you know, that. So I won't sit here and say we'll just take money from streets, you know, to fix a problem.
Let's talk about the street, $75 million that they postponed the other day. The number one question citizens want to ask as you visit with them, where has the money gone? 8 years, this mayor has been trying to get the street project going. Don't have much to show for it. If that money is designated for that bond issue, how can we take money and spend it somewhere else when we ask the people to vote that bond issue for streets? And so I'm saying if we've got not a revenue problem, we got a spending problem. We give city of Shreveport Green $150,000 a year. We give $8,000 for Dress for Success. And we can go on. The mayor moved $900,000 2013 budget, and this year he's proposed $2.2 million for civic revenues. And so what I'm saying, I want to help everybody, but can we afford it right now? We need to get our finances in order and get our streets repaired.
All right, we got another question coming up. And ask y'all, please come up, use the microphone, and tell us a little bit about who you are too, because we're all interested.
Hi, I'm Tiana, and I'm from Detroit, so so your comment about Shreveport being the next Detroit, I get what you're saying. However, I also know that Detroit is a city that, without the media shining all the bad spotlight on it, I know it's a city that has grown a lot in urban farming and public art, and I mean, it's grown in a lot of different ways, and a lot of things are there that are not always spotlights that I always wanted. My question for you is, not, living in Shreveport for 2.5 years now, how are you going to be like Detroit in a positive way of having more urban farming, having more art, and yes, it's wonderful bringing those other companies in, but how are you going to link those major businesses with your local businesses without it overshadowing? What are you going to do to support what you have here? Because there's a lot of amazing things here, which is why I'm still here. But what are you going to do about that? What are you going to do about housing? I mean, what are your views on that? Because of housing especially, it's a huge gap between Highland and South Highlands and Southern Trace. So I know that's a big, broad question, but go for it.
Good. That's a good, big old question. To address what you're saying, there are a lot of good things here in Shreveport, and we have to build upon those things. And as I look around the room, it looks like you guys want to build upon Shreveport also. When I look at the youngsters here, the 35 and under crowd, it looks like you guys want to do something. I want to do something also. So, like I say, again, what needs to happen, you need to do studies. Because, like I said, I do want to bring businesses into Shreveport, and just like you said, some businesses will overshadow other businesses. So what we have to do is find out which ones complement each other. And when those businesses complement each other, then we can court those types of businesses to come into Shreveport. There's some things that we really need here. There's some things that we don't really need. being in the military, I've been afforded the opportunity to travel to a lot of cities in America. And the things that I see in those cities, I'm like, wow, we need that here in Shreveport. But there's no reason why we can't have it here in Shreveport. We just have to be able to get along with each other enough that we can have those things here. And that's the biggest problem with this city council right now, is they can't get along with each other. And that's what I want to bring to the city council, is the opportunity to get along. Being in the military, I've talked with people and had to supervise people from all walks of life. In the city council, you have 7 members there that come from 7 different walks of life. They totally different livelihoods and totally different lives that they come from. But the key is to find out how can we be more in tune with each other. Find ways that we're more alike than different. And once we find those ways that we're more alike, then we can start working on how we're going to move forward in the city of Shreveport. Did that answer your question? Okay.
When I speak about Detroit, I'm talking about the physical issues. And but the garden that you're talking about, in Southern Hills, we have a very beautiful park out there. We just discovered that we have pine beetles, and we're going to have to make some corrections on that, and cut those trees, and hopefully we'll replant. But there has been some mention that there would be possibly a garden planted to let some of the children participate in. We need lights so that on our walkway path out there. But that park is well attended. But we have, in thinking about Detroit, we have playground equipment in a lot of parks here in town, but we don't have very much in Southern Hills. We've been left out. In our budget out there, just to show you, we had 2 things in last year's budget in Southern Hills. We had a bridge replaced, an old wooden bridge, and the area wouldn't travel that much, but they replaced it. And we had a roof put on the tennis court office. And God, I hope it was leaking, because that's all we got in the budget. We got a fire station out there, it's rotten. I took a tour of it, and the eaves are rotten on the inside. You all know I'm in the funeral business, and it wasn't very pleasant on the inside. And we asked our firemen to go in there and spend the night and work. We could have done better. SPAR should have been out there and fixed that and painted that inside of that fire station. So I look for things like the park and having the garden and other things. We need that in our community. We need to be united, not divided.
We've got time for one more question on this session. I'm going to open it up right now.
Hey, my name is Reagan Horn, and I wanted to talk about government transparency. And I had a question. Why does the city council meet on a weekday from 3:30 to 5:30 when the rest of us might be working 8 to 5 jobs?
Why does the council meet at 3? I don't know.
Because I would really like to participate, or at least know what's going on, instead of having to wait for the minutes to get posted, but I really can't take time off of work to participate.
That's a good question. Maybe one of the sitting council members can answer that question.
It's televised.
Right, it is televised, and it's also on the internet also. Right.
Well, I would like to be there to have my input heard too.
Right, yeah, I don't know if they will ever allow it to change, the time frame. I can't answer that question. But if it becomes an issue with most of the citizens, start a petition. Then they'll look at it. So one person probably can't get it done, but if the majority of citizens in Shreveport say the same thing, then we can get something done about it.
Thanks.
Let me speak to that transparency. I don't know if you've been on the website, the City of Shreveport's website. Not very good.
No, it's not.
It's terrible.
It is.
The sales tax revenues, I've had to write 2 months now to ask to get that up there so we can see what hasn't been put there yet. And when the first letter I wrote, they put it in there, but they mixed the months up. So we gotta improve communication and transparency. And we've gotta be sure that our auditor that works for the city council is doing the very best. Because I looked at the audit report in 2013, I wasn't happy with that. I'm not happy with 2014 either. I don't think we're digging and doing enough to audit the different departments. There's 12 departments under the mayor. There's 17 special funds. And they have a fraud hotline. Don't get any reports of what's going on with that. Are we getting anybody calling in? I mean, that's the things we need to know. Where is our money going? Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, y'all, that wraps it up for District E. Thank you so much, Mr. Fleury and Mr. Hendricks. So. I'll come up here where you can see me. But next up we have District B, City Council District B, which is Jeff Everson and Lynn Cawthorn. So Mr. Everson and Mr. Cawthorn, you can come up here to the stage. Okay, you guys have a couple minutes each to just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself and your district. So, go for it.
Hi, I'm Jeff Everson, and I'm currently serving for City Council District B, which, just to give you a little background of where District B is, it encompasses downtown where we are now, as well as it goes south and then sort of veers westerly. So we've got neighborhoods like Highland, part of South Highland, Stoner Hill, parts of Anderson Island, the Caddo Heights area, Ingleside, and parts of Queensboro and Hollywood. So it's a very large, very diverse district. I love representing this district because I feel like it's the heart of Shreveport. It's got really the area where our city began, and it's got a lot of stories to tell, a lot of great resources in it. It's the home of our downtown, where we've got a lot of I say one of the unique things about District B is it's got more church pews, more hospital beds, more grave sites, more of the office buildings than any of the other districts, because it's really the heart of our city. And so I really have enjoyed representing it. I'm also the youngest person by about 12 years on the council. At 35, I'm running for my second term, and in that first term, I've learned quite a bit. When I got on the council, things like breweries and food trucks and even playing music outside downtown were illegal. And I've been able to pass a lot of policies to allow for some progressive, sort of modern things to happen in the city, as well as supporting economic development, things like cohabitat and pop-ups and things that get our entrepreneurial class a chance to grow their businesses. Are things that I've been really supportive of. And so I look forward in a second term to really be able to continue a lot of the things that I've started. I've been able to secure millions in funding for renovations of community centers and street projects, but I'd like to be able to continue on the council to see those into fruition and to see things like the Unified Development Code and the Master Plan have a continued focus on implementation. So I really appreciate you being here tonight and encourage everyone in our younger age group to really get out and get involved. I'm always open to ideas. On my campaign literature, I always include my cell phone, and I'm on Twitter, Facebook, all that stuff. Really want to hear from my constituency and be involved. So I thank you so much for the opportunity to be here tonight.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Lynn Cawthorn, and I'm a candidate for City Council District B. People want to know, Lynn, why do you want to be the council person in District B? First and foremost, I believe in Shreveport, and I believe in the possibilities of this particular city. District B is the most, what I call the most diverse and eclectic district in the city. And that district needs the representation of an individual who can bring those diverse ideas and thoughts and plans to the table. I have not decided to run for District B out of happenstance. I have prepared myself to come to the city council day one and attack the fundamental problems. As the managing partner of the Cawthorn Financial Group, also being a former adjunct professor of business and finance, I am equipped on day one to come in and deal with budget crisis with the city of Shreveport, the unfunded pension situation that occurs in the city of Shreveport, and a myriad of other business challenges that face the city of Shreveport. So on day one, we need to go in and tackle the discohesion between the district. I would propose that sometime the South Highland and Caddo Heights meet for community meetings. Stony Hill and other parts of Highland meet. Because what is not happening in that particular district now, we have not fostered the dialogue to create solutions in District B. We see a lot of talk, we see a lot of rhetoric, we see a lot of going back and forth. On day one, I'm ready to unify this district, and not by talk, but by action plan. But the last 4 years, I've created what is called the State of Black Shreveport. And what that conference does is look introspectively in the city of Shreveport and look at problems facing the African American community. A city cannot move forward with its most marginalized people at the bottom of every economic indicator. What I want to do on day one is to take what I've done with the State of Black Shreveport Action Plan, bring it to the council. I'm laying Cawthorn number 120 on your ballot. Look for your vote on Saturday.
Thank you, guys. We'll start with an icebreaker question from me. In many cities, we're seeing this trend called urban sprawl, which is the city expands on its outmost layers. Downtown is an integral part of your district. What would you do to continue growth in the downtown area and to kind of offset that urban sprawl?
Well, thank you, Casey. In downtown, in fact, one of the most important parts of our downtown, we've seen a lot of reinvestment in downtown in the last few years, but the key to really making it work and sustaining it is having residential development downtown. Just a couple doors down from us at the 624 Texas Street, there's 52 new market rate units coming available. We've seen renovations to Fairmont to make those a higher quality of apartment. We've also seen right under the interstate in the Ogilvy hardware buildings, there's been a complete renovation of what was a vacant building into high-quality low-income housing. You know, we need to show the city that we can provide people that don't have a lot of money a top-quality place to live, and we haven't always done a very good job of that in Shreveport. But that place is a wonderful example of high-quality low-income housing. So there's been a lot of examples of try to push forward. And some of the things that we have to do is we have to work within other incentives that are available, like historic tax credits. We've passed a historic preservation policy in the city now that allows us to take better advantage of historic tax credits, which has pushed for reinvestment in a lot of these older buildings. But we've also got to work closely with Community Development Department, which receives federal funds to address issues like housing. One of the things that they've been very focused on is addressing our homelessness problem and trying to cut down on homelessness, which has been very effective for the establishment of a new organization to sort of bring a lot of organizations together to address that problem. But we've also seen along Clyde Fant Parkway, urban sprawl is not just limited to downtown. We've got to see other settings. People don't all want to live in like a downtown urban setting. Some people do, and we want to provide that choice. But some people want to live in a garden-style apartment, but they don't want to have to go all the way outside the city to get there. So we've seen developments like Riverscape, and there's going to be a housing unit developed behind Riverscape with single-family houses. We've also seen Coates Bluff apartments and a number of other places that have been developed in recent years that are inside of our loop, inside of our city core, and take advantages of areas that we're already policing. We've already got infrastructure to those areas. We've also got things like Choice Neighborhoods, which is a program focusing on redeveloping the area to the west of downtown and making Ledbetter Heights and Allendale a neighborhood of choice. And so, it takes a lot of partnerships, it takes a lot of working together, but we're starting to move in the right direction, and we need continued focus on that.
Thank you. To answer your question, what I propose is doing what is called the Shreveport Redevelopment Authority. And you look at cities like a New Orleans, like a Detroit, not Detroit, Chicago, I meant, where they take adjudicated blighted properties and inventory all of those properties under the auspices of the city. Now, what does that do? That'll force us to do a couple of things. That'll force us to situate properties so they can be redeveloped into a strip mall, an apartment complex, a condominium. But it also allows for investments that's sitting in the city of Shreveport that's not being utilized to give opportunities to those particular investors. And if the local investors are not interested, it's a way of attracting people from outside. Second thing you have to do as it relates to urban sprawl, I think that city government is not rocket science. If you want to improve the city of Shreveport, you've got to go find examples of where you've been in a similar situation and people have done innovative type things. And there's not a city in the United States in the last 20 years that's beginning to grow that haven't done this one fundamental thing. And that is to put all of its economic development engine organizations on the same page. So that means if the city of Shreveport has an economic development group, the parish has an economic development group, the Greater Chamber, the African American Chamber, the Hispanic Chamber, MSI, Strategic Action Council, all of those persons need to get into the room at the same time and understand what economic development is from a bottom-up approach. Once you get those people on the same page, then you can begin to develop not only downtown, then you can go in some of the urban districts that haven't had the opportunity to be redeveloped and to be redeveloped. So I'm proposing the Shreveport Redevelopment Authority and that economic engines and organizations in Shreveport sit down in the same room, get on the same page, and help move the city forward.
Thank you. That was a great kickoff. Okay, now we're going to open up to the floor. Anyone have a question for the District B candidates? Come on up.
Good evening and thank you for coming. I'm John Griffin. I'm president of College Republicans at LSUS. My question for you this evening is to focus back on the fiscal issues. This is an issue that the city is facing right now. I mean, the budget's not looking good. So, number one, with high taxes and an out-of-control budget, what are you going to do to control that budget and make sure that the city is not wasting the little bit of money it does have? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And you know, you're right, there are some very pressing issues in the city budget, and it's been great to have the experience of working on council a few years now to really get a deep understanding of what's in that budget. In the coming year, you know, we've recently passed, I don't know how many people are familiar with the pension liability challenges that our city and many cities face, but we have passed some pension reform in the last few months that's going to help to keep us financially viable and make us be able to honor the commitments we've made to our employees in the past. And so we need to stay focused on the implementation of those policies that we've passed them now. We need to make sure they work and stay on top of them to make sure they're achieving the desired effect. We also need to obviously continue doing aggressive auditing and maybe get more aggressive in some of the departments that we audit. For instance, there are a number of different funds, and in the capital budgets, if we are able to efficiently use the capital budgets in the next few years, we will pay off quite a bit of debt in the next year or so, and there is a likelihood that we could reduce property taxes in 2016 or so, as long as we stay focused on paying off a lot of that debt and getting those projects implemented. So there is a good potential on the capital side to see some tax savings. The part where we have our main challenges is the operations part of the budget, which is the part that funds our day-to-day operations, not our long-term projects, but our day-to-day operations. And that's where we need to stay really focused, especially with some of our sub-departments, like our water and sewage department. Right now they're under a consent decree, and that's to fix our sewer systems. And so that's something that our citizens deserve, clean sewers and clean groundwater, and we need to do that. But we need to make sure that we minimize any fines that we have to pay, because we don't get anything for paying fines. You know, we do get something by putting that money in the ground and improving our infrastructure. So we have to stay ahead of that schedule. Right now we're about, we're considerably ahead of the schedule, but it's going to take a very sharp eye and continued focus to make sure we stay ahead of that and don't start racking up fines like other cities like Baton Rouge and New Orleans did when they were facing similar situations. So there are answers to these problems, and we have to believe in ourselves enough to ask the hard questions and make the hard decisions to move forward with getting our budget corrected in a long-term way. But the opportunities are definitely there. We just need to stay focused on getting them done.
You know, I haven't come to the table with a finance background. I do understand the nexus between business, operation, and government. The two don't operate the same. But what I would propose to you is that in city government, you've got to make the hard decisions of where we at now, the crossroads we at now. So in the city of Shreveport, A, we definitely need to do an audit of the budget. B, we need to make sure that the administration and the city council can begin to work hand in hand, or as close to hand in hand as possible. And also do an intuitive reanalysis of the jobs throughout city government. You know, I look at some jobs in city government that people have served valiantly for the city of Shreveport. But as talking to a crowd of people between 18 and 35, there are some jobs we're paying people $80,000, $75,000 a year. We could get more bang for the buck if we took one of those jobs, split the pay in half to a young MDA, $40,000 each coming in, being able to incrementally increase those salaries. Then we can get persons with new, fresh ideas, fresh knowledge to come and help assist us in the city of Shreveport. So what I'm proposing is that we take an introspective look at the budget, make the hard decisions of what's fat, what's waste, and how do we get more bang for the buck even in city government.
Anybody else? Yours? Oh, sorry, she beat you.
Hi, Yvette Fuller. I live in Highland. I work downtown for the Shreveport Memorial Library, and I'm on the Metropolitan Planning Commission. I'm going to be long-winded, just bear with me. The first thing I want to mention is that in the last round of debate, the gentleman mentioned that a lot of people in this age range are moving with their families to, they're moving just outside of the city. But if you look at this crowd, these are the people in the crowd whose friends aren't moving to outside the city, to the suburbs. Our friends are all moving to metropolitan areas. And the majority, but the people in this room who probably live in your district want to know, and I certainly want to know, what you plan on doing to maintain the diversity of Highland as a historic neighborhood, how you feel about historic preservation and creative placemaking, how you feel about complete streets, and how you can bring up part of the community without segregating it and maintain diversity for all of us. Additionally, I'd like to know how you feel about property standards and blight and what you plan on doing about slumlords and absentee landlords.
Yvette, that is a great question. If you don't mind, can you stick up front so we can make sure we answer all of it? There's quite a few questions there, but certainly would love to start chipping away at them. I think there's a few points there I'd love to get to. You know, with property standards, I'll go back to front on the question. Property standards, you know, we passed what's called a minimum living conditions ordinance a few years ago, and that has increased the number of our ability to write property standards violations up and cite things, but it is, you know, we are subject to state law as far as how we enforce property standards. And so I've been working with a group, a statewide coalition of people. There's 4 of us from the Shreveport area that have joined people from all across the state to come up with a 3-pronged approach to addressing property standards issues and blight across the state. In 2000, right after Hurricane Katrina, New Orleans was granted some special allowances to address blight, and so one of the first things in our approach was to change the legislation at the state level that makes those special allowances only apply to New Orleans. So now they are available statewide. So that was the first thing, and that's been done. The second thing was just on our November 4th ballot, which is reducing the adjudicated property redemption period from 36 months, which is about 3 times the national average, to 18 months. And so that's the second thing. And now, thanks to the voters, that was passed. And so that's another good step forward. The third thing is the passage of what's called local legislation, where the state has to grant our local authority to establish an organization similar to, and I don't want to it has the same name, but maybe slightly different thing than what Mr. Cawthorn mentioned, but a redevelopment authority that would be able to assemble properties and clear the titles on them so they're marketable again, so they can be sold and developed. And so that's sort of the 3-part approach that's been done. 2 are down, 1 to go. And so that's a very good thing. One of the other things we can do to really help property standards, and I've been pushing for it, is to upgrade their software. We have a lot of property standards officers who spend a great amount of work, and they're very dedicated to their jobs, and they feel very overwhelmed because they go out into communities where they could write citations all day long, and then it takes a long time for those things to be addressed. And so they get frustrated. And so on Operation T-Bones, which is where we bring all the city departments together to do intensive walks through the neighborhoods, I'll go and walk with the property standards guys and the women in the department and listen to some of their concerns. And one of the major things that can help provide them to do a better job is an update in their software. There's a software that's available to them where they can enter in the citations in real time, and they don't have to go back to a desk and enter in all the data that they've entered in the field separately and basically double do their work. So it makes them a lot more efficient. Other things that you asked, I think you had mentioned on complete streets. Great. Placemaking, that's something that we have experimented with in the Shreveport Common area. It is something that actually Shreveport has been noted in national studies from MIT and other organizations across the country for our early successes in creative placemaking. Now, it's early on in that process, but the goal of that is to create an arts-driven community that feels accessible to anyone from any part of the city and has real vibrancy and a good reflection of what our local culture is. And I think that that's sometimes something Shreveport has struggled with, is really finding our identity. And so that's one thing that's awesome about this group being here, being engaged, is that this is a group of people who can help to define and create not just what Shreveport might have been in the past, but what it is now and what it's going to be going forward. And so opportunities for public art and expression that sort of help to define what it is that means something to us, what speaks to us locally, those are parts of what we've been using in Shreveport Common. But that's not to say that all creative placemaking is done that way, but that's the early approach that we're taking, and it's having some good success so far. Historic preservation, I think I mentioned we passed a historic preservation ordinance. That ordinance has allowed us to get a certified local government status. Most other cities in Louisiana had a certified local government status about 30 years ago. And Shreveport was just behind the times. We never had our ordinances in place. We never had our paperwork in place to really start a successful historic preservation ordinance. Now we do, and so that's great. That opens us up to opportunities for training and funding from federal and private resources to come in and help us incentivize areas. And right now, like you mentioned Highland, I live in Highland as well, and so obviously we have a historic district in Highland, but there's other areas in the city that we now have the ability to create local historic districts, like Queensboro would be a wonderful one to create a local historic district to provide some of those same benefits into that area. And then I think you mentioned complete streets as well. That's another one that through a couple of, so in the master plan, and I speak about the master plan a lot, and I'm very passionate about the implementation of it. And it does address complete streets. And one of the projects that we've funded and designed right now, it's almost completed being designed, and we're looking for funding to actually construct it in the next year or so, is at the intersection of Kings Highway and Linwood. In that area around that intersection, that was one of the only actual projects that the whole master plan mentioned, because it is our medical district. It is the center of a lot of employment. There are a lot of traffic accidents there. There are a lot of pedestrians there. It provides us a great opportunity to show true complete streets and what they can do for economic development, for public safety, for equity, for the ability to have job growth and further development in the area. So that's a key point for us to do, is to implement that project. And then in terms of how that can help to stop gentrification. I mean, gentrification is always a challenge when you see new investment coming in. It can squeeze out some of the people that are currently in the area. But for instance, in the Shreveport Common area, we've been very, very delicate and focused on making sure that we're working with social groups in the area to make sure that while we are sort of trying to breathe new life into the area, we are trying to also lift up the life that is there and celebrate the life that is there. So we've been working with social service agencies like Mercy House and a number of the other great organizations that have people that already live in that area, so that we don't want them to have to move out. We want them to be able to enjoy the benefits of what's coming up around them and really rise their tide as well.
Repeat that question. Give me the short version.
Property standards, gentrification, historic preservation, complete streets, and creative placemaking.
And creative what?
Placemaking.
Okay. Did you set that question up for Jim?
Yeah. No, I set that question up for me.
Okay, all right. Obviously I haven't served on the council the last 4 years, so I won't be talking as it relates to ordinances. But your first piece, I want to go back to the Shreveport Redevelopment Authority. Some of the property standards deals that needs to happen and I have outlined that in an economic development plan. But one of the things we want to do, we want to have a color-coded plan that each color indicates the degree of disrepair that the property may have. And once that authority gets in place, then we can use that color-coded system to prioritize what needs to be repaired and how we move forward with it. The gentrification piece. If you look out through the city of Shreveport, let me back up and say this. The city of Shreveport has to find its identity. And I often tell people this, Shreveport is a simultaneous blend of Louisiana and East Texas all at the same time. All right, so what does that mean? That you can get red beans and rice, or you can get field peas and rice. You can root for the Saints, or you can root for the Cowboys. Or you can wear cowboy boots, or you can wear no shoes at all. But the point I'm making is that how do we create our value proposition until we sit down across the racial divide in the city of Shreveport and understand who we are, how we develop that and transport that outside of the city of Shreveport. And so to answer that, that means that people who historically or traditionally haven't sat down and talked to one another are going to have to sit down and talk to each other. Because 4 years from now, you'll be coming back asking us the same question. So that needs to happen. And what was your other concern?
Historic preservation and complete streets.
Okay, the historic preservation. I know they're doing an excellent job of that over in Highland, but over by the police department, by Galilee, they're going to turn that into a civil rights museum. So if you go to places like Memphis, Birmingham, they have all creative things of that nature. So I am proposing that we continue to look through the city of Shreveport, comb our history, and show that things that are germane to every part of the community and places that need to be maintained or preserved. I'm in favor of there again, sitting down, having a dialogue, having a conversation to bring that to fruition.
Complete streets.
You say complete streets? Complete the streets that are in disarray, or what do you mean?
Well done. That was good.
Okay.
Thank you guys, really appreciate that. That was really good, everybody. We're gonna bring on the next set of guys, so thank y'all very much for taking all those questions. There was a lot of really good engagement from y'all. Right now, I'd like, yeah, If y'all got more questions, I know there were a lot of people who still didn't get a chance to answer. Everybody is invited to hang around afterwards and continue the discussion. But for now, I want to bring up the District A candidates, which is Mr. Willie Bradford and Ms. Rose Wilson McCullough. And they're both going to tell us a little bit about who they are and why they're up here. Thank y'all.
Let me say good evening to everyone. I am City Councilwoman Rose Wilson McCullough of District A. A little bit about myself. I served on the Caddo Parish Commission for 12 years. As a matter of fact, Mr. Matthew Lynn is here. I had the opportunity to serve with him. And for the past 4 years, in serving on the Caddo Parish Commission, I served 3 terms, which were 4-year terms. And after I termed out on the Caddo Parish Commission, I then ran for the City Council. And so for the past 4 years, I've had the opportunity to serve on the Shreveport City Council. And I guess your question is, why am I compelled to run? Well, just know that I came from a family of people that actually serve the community. Service to mankind is all that I've ever known, even from a child. But my greatest concern at this point, after serving these past 4 years, I'm hearing some of the other candidates talk about the fact that there needs to be some cohesiveness on the City Council. And being the only female with 6 other males, you can imagine what it's been like for me. But I would have to consider myself as the peacemaker at some point in time, you know, because I am the only female. I try to be that peacemaker. But I represent a district that's 79% minority. And even in serving on the Caddo Parish Commission, District 2, I served pretty much a 79% minority district, as well as now a 79% minority district on the City Council. And what I've discovered is, at the end of the day, Caddo Parish Commission, City Council, you know, when the pots of money are exposed, when the money comes to the table, at the end of the day, we are the least served. I mean, when the money is counted, most of the time we come up the shortest. And so what I've actually had to do, my cry has been on both the Caddo Parish Commission as well as the City Council, is to please give us our fair share of the pie. And so what I plan to strive to do is to make sure we continue to get a fair share as a minority district, and looking at the master plan for the city of Shreveport. Serving on the Caddo Parish Commission, I had an opportunity to be exposed to the master plan, the construction of the master plan, and also serving on the City Council. And serving as the chairperson of the master plan subcommittee from 2011 to 2013. I served as a chairperson as a subcommittee. And coming on to the the Metropolitan Planning Committee as the chairperson, only to discover that you heard maybe some of the other candidates talk about the old codes, the old zoning ordinances, only to discover that the Unified Development Code had not been changed since 1958. And in 1958, I was 2 years old. So my first initiative as serving as chairperson of the Metropolitan Planning Committee subcommittee chair, my very first initiative that should go down in history was to change the 1958 Unified Development Code. Why? Because in serving on the Caddo Parish Commission, as well as starting to serve on the City Council, a lot of the developments, a lot of what's coming up in our district and the different precincts, the citizens would, at the end of the day, once it's started and finished, well, why didn't we know anything about that? So my second initiative as the chairperson
Ms.
of the...
McCullough, we'd like to move on to questions. If you please let Mr. Bradford have a few minutes to introduce himself, we'll let you take some questions, please.
Okay, but let me finish this. My goal is to come up with more economic development in the district, because this is the cries of the citizens. They want more economic development. I've had former employees to talk about the fact that they need more incentives. We have people that are interested in small businesses, and my fight will be to get more small businesses into the city of Shreveport. Now, in order to get businesses into District A, the streets are gonna have to be fixed. And I will be pushing to get an overall Fix the Street program in the near future. Thank you, sir.
Good evening. My name is Willie Bradford. I'm a candidate for City Council District A. I've been involved in this city for many, many years. I actually have a body of work out here. I've served on so many nonprofits. I raised funds to help feed the hungry with the Christian Service Program. I was one of the first members of the Shreveport Human Relations Commission. I worked in the NAACP to help forge better relations between government and African Americans. I worked with State Fair, with so many areas. So my work is documented, it's out there, okay? I'm running for political office, I'm running for this seat. And if you've been paying attention to City Hall over the last 4 years or more, and you're not outraged, you have been paying attention, okay? We got a crossroads here, y'all. Listen, elections are problem solvers. Okay? It's evaluation time. If you are happy with the way things are being going, then you vote for the person that you think has been accomplishing what you feel like need to be accomplished. But if you're not happy with the way city government has served you, then it's time for you to evaluate that situation and hold that person accountable for what had not happened that you was expecting to happen. And if the person that is offering themselves in a different way from that person, then that person should be considered. Very simply. I've been knowing Councilwoman McCullough for many, many years. But we have fundamental differences. We believe in different things. She believed that everything is okay in District A.
No, I do not.
She believed that you can take
Well, let's find out what y'all's differences are when the answers to some questions now, all right?
City resources and apply them to just a limited amount of people. I believe if we're gonna engage city resources, we should broaden it out. We should serve the majority of people, as many people as those resources can serve. You know? She believed that it's okay to
Thank you,
vote.
Mr. Bradford. We're going to move on to a question now.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kristen Reed. I'm actually the owner of Words of Lattes, which is located off of North Market in District A. We are an event that is catered to culture and rebuilding the community through education and the arts. We also do a lot of political things. In the month of September alone, we got 252 young people registered to vote. On behalf of Words of Lattes, my question to you, and we've had several of the other candidates from other districts actually come out to Words of Lattes, see what we're about, and support us, but neither one of you have actually been there. And you have sent people on your behalf, but one thing I can say about young people is that we feel like candidates are not accessible enough to us. We feel like you don't care enough about us to talk to us about issues and the things that are going on in the city, and we are the future of this city, and we just don't feel like any elected officials or the candidates, like they reach back to the young people enough to get us involved. We do matter. Our demographic at Words of Lattes is about 18 to 35, and we talk so much about so many of the things that are going on in this city, and we've just collectively, one of the things that the young people who have had a problem before with voting, the ones who say, well, I don't vote because I don't know who to vote for. We feel like you all just don't cater enough to us and what we have to offer to the city. What are you going to do about that?
Thank you. Thank you for the question. Well, first of all, let me make this clear that I've never held public office before, okay? But I've been very astute to public office, as well as the neglect in public officials as relates to young people. I appreciate you all here today because this is a very clear message that you do care, okay? Listen, I just left Southern University.
I just addressed their Student Government Association. And I'm gonna tell you what I told them. You have a voice, okay? Through organization, through setting an agenda, through planning. Listen, the public officials are not dissing you on purpose, okay? They are dissing you because they are prioritizing who they think can vote for them, okay? And I'm saying that there are smart, intelligent people, there are great opportunities that are being presented in this town that needs to be exposed. I'm pledging to them, I'm pledging to this group, okay, that I'm gonna be more broader in understanding what we have here in Shreveport and how we can apply that to the betterment of this whole city. Certainly, District A is my priority, but also we have a fiduciary responsibility for this city as city council people. And I'm saying that you, by organizing, by presenting your plan, or presenting your priorities, your objectives, you can get the attention of public officials and they will respond to you because they know that you're paying attention and that you are willing to hold them accountable for what they are not doing for you. Thank you.
Let me, first of all, apologize to you, but my experience have entailed, you heard Jeff mention something about choice neighborhoods. I've had several citizens about your age, within your age range, that I've actually met with them. I've actually set up meetings with community development to discuss choice neighborhoods and similar situations. What I plan to do, and I've started to do, when I'm elected again this time, and I've been bringing this to the table over and over again. It's so important that you realize that your elected officials are not octopus. They don't have 8 arms, they don't have 20 eyes, they're not owls, they don't have eyes behind them. My point, you are the eyes and the ears of the elected official. I tell my constituents, you make me the elected official or servant. I don't like elected official and I don't like politician. But you help me to become the servant that I'm called to be when you bring to me the attention of issues that you want to be addressed. My point, what I'm stressing to my constituency, District A, is to become more involved with the political process. Don't always go based on what you hear your friends say, your neighbors say. And one young lady, I suggested to her to even watch it as televised. She said she wanted to know more about it before getting it into the minutes. But it's so important as a citizen of the United States of America, because be mindful, the problems that we're having in the city of Shreveport, according to Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., we're in a $5 trillion deficit. So a lot of the problems that we're having here in the city of Shreveport, they're going on all over the United States of America. But what I can appreciate, the fact that I can go to Austin, Texas, I can go to Birmingham, Alabama, I can go to Oklahoma City, and I can see progress. I can see businesses growing. I can see economic development. Why? Because somebody mentioned earlier, because they're working together collectively as one body. But for some reason here in the city of Shreveport, they're still a stronghold. So it's so important that you as a young person, and I have children your age, my oldest son is 35, the next one is 32, the other one is 30, my daughter is 26. But you guys are our future of tomorrow. You must get involved in the political process. If you can't make the meeting, then you should have some of your friends to make the meeting, so that you can sit there and you can see the decisions that City Councilwoman make. You can see the decisions that City Councilman Jeff Efferson's make. You need to become more involved, and let's stop playing the point blame on somebody. You must become involved in the political process. And I love it when you call me and say, look, could you get us a meeting with Bonnie Moore downtown with community development so that we can discuss this project or this project? I love doing what I do. So if you contact me, just know that if you don't get me, it's not because I'm not making myself available. I could be meeting with another group within your age group. Thank you.
Thank you both. All right, who wants to ask another question? Have we got one on tap? Anybody? Anybody? There we go.
Hey there, my name's Alex. I live over in Bossier. I've done a lot of tax sale stuff and adjudicated property. I happen to know that Council District A and B are the top 2 tiers of adjudicated properties. Specifically, I heard the other 2 candidates talk at length about adjudicated properties and tax sales and that. Just kind of elaborate a little bit on that. Not necessarily a question so much as the same thing they talked about. I would like to hear what your plans are for A, to appeal to outside investors, to appeal to the city, to appropriate more property and what they're going to do with it north of 12 Mile Bayou.
Okay.
Is that fair? Is that a good enough question?
Sure, I understand the question. Yeah. Well, first of all, the reason that A and B are the districts that has the most adjudicated vacant property because those are the oldest neighborhoods in Shreveport, which means that District A, for instance, in Allendale, they're talking about, there's so much blight that there's the houses. When I grew up in Allendale, we had neighbors all over the place. Now houses is almost blocks apart because as people grew and they financially, economically became better, they left the neighborhoods. There was nothing there to attract new residents or businesses back into that neighborhood. Okay, we lost years of opportunities to reinvest in those neighborhoods. We can't make that up. But what I'm saying is that there are opportunities, especially with I-49 now coming directly into those neighborhoods. MLK and Allendale. Exits from that highway, exits from 220 would now be accessible, which means that we can now promote those neighborhoods, District A, as a business destination as well as residential destination, because you can get on the interstates and get anywhere throughout Shreveport within minutes, not hours. So I've been talking to the business, to the North Shreveport Business Association, as well as to home owners and business developers who are looking forward to engaging us to make those opportunities come to fruition. And I'm gonna say again, y'all, it's progressive leadership. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, male or female, blue or black, okay? It's who that person is who's representing you that makes the difference. People have to respect your leadership. Your leadership has to be able to present a very sensible option, objections to the people that's interested in coming in there. And we have to do that because, again, we've lost years of neglect because we did not have the leadership at City Hall to attract and to engage people who are willing to reinvest into our neighborhoods. I'm going to make that change. I'm going to change that. Thank you.
During the time I served on the Caddo Parish Commission when adjudicated properties were being returned back to the tax roll, one of my initiatives in my town hall meetings was to inform my constituency of the adjudicated properties and also those that expressed a desire in having small businesses or even improving their businesses. I have encouraged them to come in and consider purchasing adjudicated properties. And so if you're able to come in and purchase those adjudicated properties, you're able to increase and improve your businesses. And I will continue to encourage my constituency, making them aware. As a matter of fact, every city council meeting, we're voting on different adjudicated properties that are being bought. So the properties are there, and that's why it's so important. I explained to the young lady that if you're not at the meetings, you have someone there to see what's being done with the adjudicated properties, because that's an issue that we vote on every city council meeting. You'll know what adjudicated properties are being sold where. And you even have a right to purchase adjudicated properties. Now, me as a representative, I cannot purchase adjudicated properties. But I make it my business to make you knowledgeable of the fact that the properties are there. If you have an interest in growing your business or increasing your business, the opportunities for you to purchase those properties are there. If you are a part of the political process, when it's televised, you know that these adjudicated properties are being sold. As a matter of fact, when we started with adjudicated properties, I think we had something like 85,000 pieces of adjudicated property. I would have people, Matthew Lynn, to call me and say, Rose, I need to get me some property. I said, some of that adjudicated property, I said, we're talking about 85,000 pieces of adjudicated property. Where do you want to get this property? So if you're interested in adjudicated property, you need to ride around in Shreveport, see where you'd like to establish your business or improve your business, and then you contact the city of Shreveport as far as making application, because there is an application process, and you do have to pay a fee. But you need to contact the city of Shreveport that handles adjudicated property, and if you're interested in increasing or improving your business, then you make application and you buy you some property. It's accessible to you. You need to be a part of the political process. If you're not at the meetings, have some of your friends, somebody in your group, watch the meeting and bring back what's being discussed during the political process. So I encourage you to purchase those adjudicated properties.
We've got one more for the two of y'all, but it's going to have to be short because we're trying to keep time. So please keep this answer just about a minute and a half, 2 minutes. Thank you.
Okay.
Good evening, I'm Brent Ladden, local business owner. One of my biggest things that I believe is for y'all's district is the I-49 inner city connector. How do you guys feel about that and the progress on that? I know there's been a road stop for the whole completion of I-49, but what is your take on that issue?
Well, I really support the idea of I-49 coming through. I think it's very accessible to the community. And another thing, you all asked about the street problem, and I think a lot of you all don't know this, and I've taken a lot of heat about the bond money as far as streets goes. But what you need to know is that Governor Jindal, he insisted that we take $6 million that we got from the stimulus money to put on I-49. So that is another reason why, too, we haven't been able to improve a lot of streets, because $6 million of our stimulus money went toward I-49. So I support it. I look forward to I-49 continuously coming through. Of course, there was an issue with Jackson Heights with the I-49. But, like I said, back in 2004, I was served notice that the whole idea of utilizing Jackson Heights was to not so much as I-49, but to bring in condos and townhouses. And so my fight, the previous council, the council person that was there prior to me, had legislation in place, for housing to come in that area. And of course, when you're running track, you always have to have somebody to start the race, pass the baton, and end the race. I'm grateful to God that I was able there to pass the baton, Kendricks, in order to get the Renaissance. If you all look over there now, we have what you call the Renaissance housing development. Because there was a big issue about, I-49 is coming through here, you all can't build here. Well, no, that wasn't the real, that wasn't the whole idea. The whole idea was the townhouses and the condominiums to come. And now you got the issue of I-49. We promised those people when we moved them out of Allendale, when I was serving on the Caddo Parish Commission, those people were out waving signs, walking along the sidewalks, saying, we want to come back to our community. And I watched that on the Caddo Parish Commission. So that when this item came up on the city council's agenda, my antennas went up. When the idea of the I-49 project, I said, oh no, this is not about I-49. This is about someone else having other plans for Jackson Heights. But I'm so grateful that we were able to bring in the Renaissance. And of course, another development that I was able to pass the baton on was Cypress Landing, that's across the street from Southern University, which could be accessible to our students as well in the community. But yes, I support I-49, but just know, Governor Jindal insisted that we give our $6 million in street money to the I-49 project. So we've played a big role in making I-49 happen.
I work at Willis-Knighton Medical Center, and at Willis-Knighton, we have a saying, beware of anybody who blames somebody else for what didn't happen. Now, progress. The word is progress, okay? There's been a movement, a campaign to get 3132 extended to the port. There's been stumbling block after stumbling block. Listen, if the city is going to become the city that it needs to be, we got to have the transportation apparatus in place. Likewise with I-49 coming through the city. Now, listen, there are miles and miles of vacant and abandoned properties in Allendale. Miles, okay? And while the city would rebuild Jackson Heights in the path of I-49 behooves me. Listen, right across the street on Allen Avenue, they could have constructed that same project over there. But why would the city do that? Why would the city build, after years of vacancy in the path of I-49, rebuild a multi-million-dollar housing project that we know that if we don't eventually get I-49 extended through the city to connect to I-49, that's going to be ending at 220. All that traffic is going to be dumped right at I-20. And if you try to get through I-20 right now at rush hour, coming off of, and I hear you, coming off of that highway is going to be done. If we're going to utilize downtown as a business destination, we're going to utilize that convention center as it has the potential to be utilized, then eventually we're going to have an exit coming off of I-49 into the downtown area, and that's going to have to happen sooner rather than later, because as long as we delay it, we're going to continue to build that problem where we cannot access the rightful corridor from Baton Rouge all the way up to Texarkana and all the way up to Canada. Thank you.
Thank you both so much. Y'all can have a seat, stick around, whatever y'all like to do.
You do it. Thank you.
There you go. So when we started this program out, this challenge that we set, we had intended to get the mayoral runoff candidates here. We started with our signature drive and trying to get up to about 200 names, and about the time we did, we sent out invitations, but we've only got one candidate who agreed to be part of this challenge right now, and we're going to introduce her.
So next up we have Victoria Provenza. She is one of the two remaining mayoral candidates. She's going to be here answering your direct questions. And once again, thank you all for coming out and for being attentive and for being collaborative and engaged in this engagement. This is exactly what we wanted, so thank you again. And Victoria? Q&A session, because I know we want to move this along.
Okay, well, hopefully most of you know me, but for those of you who don't, I'll give you just kind of some little funny tidbits about my campaign and why I continually show up when it's the young demographic. One of the challenges facing Shreveport is we're a 20th century town failing to compete in a 21st century economy. So, I said, woohoo! But what happens is when I first, I'm a political neophyte. I've never run for political office before. And when I would go out, I would talk about 21st century, 21st century, 21st century. And all my advisors would say, shh, you've got to stop saying 21st century. It's scaring people. And I said, whoa. It's not like it's a surprise, it's 2014. So I am so delighted to be in front of a 21st century audience, so you're not afraid of that word. And not only is your vote important to me, and when I was the only candidate that showed up for the first SBC Unfiltered, I told you this that night, is that your vote is extremely important to me. But in reality, your vote is more important to you because your voices need to be heard. What's important to me is your continued engagement. And that's why I always show up when it's your age group. Because to bring Shreveport into the 21st century, I'm going to need you and you and you and you and you and everyone in this room to be engaged, right? We want a 21st century city. We want to move past whatever has bound us to our past. We need to learn from our history. Shreveport has a very critical and important history, but we need to move forward. And for us to do that, I need you. I need your voices. I need your engagement. And what I promise you in return, besides a 21st century vibrant and prosperous city, is we're going to diversify all of our citizen advisory boards. Because where is the greatest discrimination in this town? Where do we find it? It's in age. We discriminate against young people. We don't communicate, as Kristen says. What am I, on fleck? Oh, fleek. Sorry. I turn up. Anyway, so we need to communicate. We need to get out 21st century communication tools so we can engage you more, bring you in, and bring the city alive and hopping again. So again, you're extremely important to me. Your engagement is even more important to advancing our city to where we want it to be. So with that, let's go for the questions. I'm not afraid. Bring them on.
All right, who's up first?
Wait a minute. Okay.
Hi. Okay, so my name is Jill, and I have lived in Shreveport for just a couple of years.
Okay.
I can't say that I love it here.
Okay.
So, hey, maybe this is the time I can start loving it.
Yeah.
I'm a public health graduate student here, and I have two questions kind of related to that. One of them has to do with keeping young people in Shreveport, because as of right now, I plan to finish school next fall, and I plan to leave.
Right.
So number one, why should I stay? And then number two, which is related to like public health issues, and it's not too much about people my age, but the younger community, the kids that are in schools here that live in food deserts, that are, you know, living in poverty, stuff like that. What do you think Shreveport can do about things like that, like making this a healthier place for the kids in the next like 10 years, 15 years?
Okay, I'll address both questions. How about I take the young people first? I'm a geologist. I started in oil and gas, and after the '86 bust, I had to move away. I switched then to environmental, and then I went to infrastructure and geographic information systems, and 3 years ago, I was gonna have to move away again. And so I decided to run for mayor because I was so fed up with the lack of growth in our community. When I had lived in all 4 time zones and seeing, even during economic depressed times, other cities achieve true growth and prosperity. So I made it a commitment then to run for mayor and to change things. And one of the biggest issues is jobs. You need economic opportunity to stay here, along with a strong economic development program that brings jobs for young professionals, is that you then increase your tax base. Wow, what a novel idea. And then the government gets more money to build amenities that you appreciate. So I am very, very interested in not only the economic development component, but building the amenities and listening and engaging with all of our young people to build those here. Here's a perfect example. The downtown development boards are served by a diverse group of people, but there's no young people on those boards. So traditionally, DDA and the other organizations have marketed downtown to suburbanites. Well, it's not real successful, is it? Because you need those young voices, you need young hipsters, you need people who want to be urban dwellers to populate your downtown. So we need your voices, because more parking is not important to you, right? But what about a grocery store? So you can ride your bike or walk, you know, and then carry your bags upstairs. So we need to significantly adjust the mindset of Shreveport. That's another reason why it's so important for you guys to vote. You know why? Okay, no offense, but everybody 65 years and older, do you know what happens? They get their ballots mailed to them. They are chronic voters. Their ballots can be mailed to them. All they have to do is tick, 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 put a stamp on it, pop it in the mailbox. They're chronic voters, and their voices continue to be heard. So it is extremely important for your vote, not for me, although I do need it, and I do appreciate it, but for you. Your vote has to be heard. with your voice. Okay, the second question to that was how to address urban food islands and health and, you know, poverty, exactly. And, okay, yes. And this is where I truly believe there are two issues. One is partnerships. There is only so much government can do. We have a significant amount of resources here in Shreveport via our faith-based communities and our nonprofit and non-governmental organizations that serve underserved populations. So the first is building relationships and erasing the silos that those exist in so that we can have more of a cooperative agreements among all of those so that they're best served. And then on my platform of cleaning up the contracting process, and this is more of a financial issue, but we get significant amount of federal funding through our community development program that we disperse to certain communities and populations across the city. A lot of times what has happened is that money goes to friends of friends and not necessarily the most successful programs. So we are going to not only clean up the contracting department in the AEC, which is Architecture, Engineering, and Construction, which are your big multi-million-dollar projects. We're also going to clean it up in our disbursement of our federal funding so that there is now a performance matrix for organizations that get that funding. They're going to have to show us the real value that that provides for our citizens. And if they meet the performance matrix, when they come up for refunding, they will then again be refunded. Because the ultimate goal is to make our city better, not to provide jobs for friends of friends. So that will be completely cleaned up, and the funding that comes out of community development will actually be spent on programs that work. Oh, and I do have a czar of wellness. So, because one of the big things is I have a czar of wellness because it's extremely important to me. Health is extremely important. So, anyway. Okay, hi.
Hi, how you doing?
And welcome, and I hope you want to stay. Stay around.
I've been down. Christopher Wilson.
Hi,
I'm Cattle Parish School Board educator, voice of the Shreveport Bossier Mavericks. My question is, what is in your plan as mayor, in addition to the city council candidates, to ensure that all of our public parks are enhanced and maintained? For there's a huge disparity in the appearance and amenities in the parks and influence areas as opposed to others, including, I'm a born and raised native of Shreveport, Fairgrounds Field. I spent years at Fairgrounds Field and the Hirsch Coliseum. You know, when we deal with, we play softball. And we'll go to Airport Park and the grass is knee high and I'm 6'3". We'll go to Southern Hills and Cargill and everything's laid out. And we just want to be able to use our parks. You know, use our parks, whether it's walking our dogs or playing softball or taking our kids, and not have to worry about going all the way across town to enjoy our public park system. So I just wanted to know what you, as well as the other candidates, if you know they come stop and talk to me, what was their plan to deal with those types of issues? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christopher. I just came from Bilberry Park, who I actually went to school with Johnny Bilberry, and that facility is actually wonderful. So there is discrepancies and there are disparities as well across the city, and that brings to one of our biggest issues for our campaign is complete transparency. So what we're going to do via a 21st century tool called the internet is we are actually going to make all of the city data of spending available in the form of a GIS, which is basically a map. So you can click on your district. If you're a city council member, you can click on your district and see how funds are distributed. You know, Durwood may be getting way more money than Willie. And they can squabble about that in council chambers, you know. But the real issue is making sure, and this is what I feel that the mayor's top responsibility is, that funds are distributed equally among the city. Because, you know, every city council member is going to be lobbying for their district, as they should. They should. But the mayor's job is to not have any turf in any one of those positions and truly work for all of the citizens in the city. So we're going to achieve that via transparency. And then to follow up on Jill's question, where did Jill go? Oh yeah, I have a huge redevelopment plan for SPAR, because SPAR is Shreveport Parks and Public Assembly and Recreation. So we can leverage that department way more than it's being leveraged now to actually bring all of our communities together with one goal, one voice. And that's my passion to bring to this city. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for coming, Ms. Provenza. I'm John Griffin with LSUS College Republicans.
I spoke to your group before.
Yes, you have, which we did endorse her. But more to the point, I want to begin, and I'm going to speak in business terms, and that's something you like. Okay, LSUS is an integral part of Shreveport's economy. And statistically, there was a study that was done a few years back that shows that students that graduate from LSUS and go to LSUS will stay in Shreveport, which is a good return on investment for LSUS. So with the current problems that LSUS is facing and the growth of LSUS in general, as mayor, how would you help foster the growth of LSUS in Shreveport?
Well, that's an excellent question. And John works on my campaign as a volunteer as well, so I don't want you to think that was planted, because it wasn't a planted question. But I have met with Dr. Clark, the new chancellor of LSUS, 3 times. We have spoken about several issues of building the relationship between the city and the university. From a city's perspective, research is critical. So one of the things that I introduced to him that I've recognized of other four-year colleges across the United States is they have a research component, like a capstone or a 4-year thesis project that students present. And what that does for a city is it gives us tremendous reach into the business community to start building the relationships between the university and the business community. So he thought that was a good idea, and we're going to continue to work on that. The other issue that I had not heard of before, but because I am willing to go anywhere I'm invited, particularly if there's sugar involved. But anyway, every invitation that I've been issued, I've accepted. And at one of these events, someone asked me about the concept of a charter university. And I said, well, I've not really heard that. Can you explain more what it is? And it's very similar to a charter school in K through 12. And there's actually charter universities where when the state funding becomes so low, which is one of the issues we have here with LSUS, that the city actually adopts the university. So it might be something that we want to look at. There's several large businesses here that would benefit from having a local university that they can use for job performance. Oh, I see somebody smiling back there. Have you ever heard of the charter university concept? Oh, okay, so it's really kind of a cool concept, and particularly because I know you're a high-tech guy, and you, as one of the investors into that university, can direct the programming so that you get a pipeline of employees that you don't have to train. They're right ready to come into the jobs that you have to grow your business. So it is an incredible concept, and we're going to continue the dialogue on that. Okay, the other thing was football. I get these 2 questions because I speak a lot. I'm not joking with you guys. I've been out at LSUS. I think 4 different organizations at LSUS have invited me to speak, and I've accepted all of them. And I get really unique questions. The one was football. Shreveport needs a football team. And so I think we would work with the university to, try to encourage more sporting events. And then the funniest one that I get from LSUS is in other college towns, and I didn't know this, maybe you young people know this, but you don't have to be 21 to get into a bar. You have to be 18. Do you guys know that? Like in Baton Rouge, Ruston? See, I didn't know that. And initially when I was asked that question, I have a daughter who's 20, and I was like, no. My 20-year-old daughter is not going to be in a bar with men who are 35. That's just not going to happen. But we dialogued about it, and it became very interesting to me. So one of the things is I've talked to several bar owners since, and a lot of them want to actually raise their age to get into their bar because they like the 25 and older crowd. But one of the things that it did bring up in our dialogue was, and Derwin, I heard you talk about Dave and Buster's, is why don't we have an interdisciplinary program at LSUS or one of the other universities where they build a business plan and go to a Dave and Buster's or another type business to say, hey, if you place that here, will we grow? So I'm getting, I see this is the one bad thing about being accessible and available. Who was it that told me earlier I was too available? I stayed out in the parking lot at 11:30 2 nights ago in that freezing cold because somebody kept asking me questions and I kept answering. Okay, so I'll speed it up, Adam. Okay, go ahead. Oh, are you gonna ask me a GIS question?
No. Okay. I'm not asking about bikes either, which
okay, I can handle it. Are you gonna ask me, do I ever illegally cross railroad train cars when it's shorter?
That's a fact. It's happening.
Oh, shh. We're being filmed.
Excuse me, sorry. So I'm Stephen Peterson, organizer of SBC Bike Social organization that puts bikes on bikes. I'm not gonna talk about bikes today. I do have other interests. One being helping people. Excuse me, sorry. Thank you. So I don't know if most of you haven't maybe heard about this, but Sportran and NLCOG have both recently made huge pushes with new websites and new plans and new leadership to be involved in open planning and transparency. In my mind, this kind of puts the city of Shreveport in the hot seat. So I want to say that I think we should forget the past and really move forward. We have a chance here on the brink of success or failure as a city as a whole. We can make some real progress, and one of the things that I want to see change is our homeless situation. I've read articles about the way European countries look at the way we deal with homeless, and they're offended, and it comes down to a social justice issue. Anyway, what can you do to help homeless in terms of being super progressive? And I want to use abandoned buildings to house them, things like this, and just do something that would gain worldwide attention. And I think you can solve more than just that problem.
Thank you, Stephen. This actually touches my heart because, I answer each and every question. I'm a grassroots candidate, and I don't have professional writers that answer my questions. I literally answer them from my heart. And I might even cry when I'm telling you this story, but one of the Times questions, do you guys, where's the Times? Times, Adam, remember one of the questions was, or maybe it was DDA, but for some reason I'm thinking it was the Times, was they asked about homelessness. And the other candidates answered about increased police presence and blah, 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 and crime and all that. And I answered, there are citizens, and we can't marginalize any of our citizens. And one of the people, the volunteers at the Hub Ministries wrote me back and said he was in tears when he read my response. And I truly believe that as a city, we want to become the city of one voice, of one love, and not hate. We're on the precipice here. And that's when I was talking to you earlier about engaging you, is that we have got to be a compassionate city and a loving city. And most cities embrace their homeless population in such a way that they're not marginalized. So that's the number one change that I would make, is that you don't get handcuffed and hauled off to another facility. More than likely, a homeless population is due to some type of mental illness. And so there's the partnership that we have with the existing organizations. And then when I spoke earlier about the funding that comes out of community development for our underserved populations, is we're going to very seriously look at only the programs that work. And then we will continue to partner with those. Now, when Chris Markison, the GIS and Economic Development Director from City and County of Pueblo, was here, they're a very progressive city, and one of the ways that they have actually dealt with their homeless issue is they give them an audition and a permit to be buskers. And so what happens is then the public begins to engage in an entertainment type way with your homeless population, which oddly enough is very consistent around here. There's several. I mean, if you live downtown, where is Pete Fetterman here? Where's Pete? Pete, where are you at? Pete, don't you know, I mean, you get to know, if you live downtown, you get to know the homeless population, and they're actually very wonderful people. They just have a very different background or very different situations than what we do. And so one of the ideas was, you know, I want to make Texas Street from the church all the way to the bridge completely vibrant. Outdoor cafes, buskers. I mean, make it where people want to come downtown, and provide permits where people can audition and they can busk for money. And so that's one of those innovative ideas that it serves two purposes. It provides a revenue stream for your homeless population, but the biggest thing it does is it educates our public that these are not people to be afraid of. These are our citizens who just have a different way of life than what we normally do. So, thank you.
Hello. Oh, you're brave. He's wearing that Cowboys jersey.
First of all, thank you for stepping up and being here.
Thank you.
Yeah. My name is Tim J. Smith, and I work in the film industry. Film family here. So, like, for about the past 5 or 6 years, like, I'm sure everybody here has noticed, it's been on a steady decline. And like a lot of the people that moved here from all over the place to work on the films, they left because the work slowed down. I'm one of the few that stayed, but I'm also from here, so I really didn't plan on leaving anyway. But basically the question is, we want to know what you can do to help. Maybe not bring it back to what it was in 2008, because like,
Why not?
Because that was around the time where New Orleans was still waking back up, because that's one reason why I slowed down, because New Orleans is back and a lot has gone back to New Orleans, but they should get everything. We should still have a good piece of it. So what can you do to help wake it up? Because a lot of people want it back, and I'm tired of hitting the road all the time to work. I want to work at home sometimes.
Yeah, we want to keep you here.
Yeah.
So I'll answer that two ways. One is I've already started. I don't know how many people saw I had a meeting with the CEO of Virgin America. And so we met with them, then their senior vice president of planning, of getting a direct flight from Los Angeles to Shreveport. So that's one step that we're working on. And Virgin America is very interested. We're going to continue the dialogue. I worked with them, showed them a business plan. And one of those is that movies, you know, are cyclical. They come and they go. A lot of times they depend on the weather, which is a greater advantage that we have here over New Orleans. And then the second thing that we have is our sun aspect ratio is more consistent here than it is in New Orleans. And we have more varied architecture and topography. So one of the things that we will do is we will beef up our film office and be more aggressive in marketing films, and then also make films welcome when they come here. I was a studio teacher, so I've worked with a lot of, you know, the industry, and so it's extremely important to me. But second to that is, and I see we have some digital media people in the room that take advantage of digital media. One of the industries that what you call in Shreveport is your value proposition, something that we uniquely own that no one else does, is our music history. So one of the things that we want to build is a music industry infrastructure here via recording, so that there can be crossover. Or what type of position do you have?
I do stunts.
Oh, stunts. Well, okay. Well, for movie music videos, you know, there could be jobs for music videos. But what that will do is that will fill the gap, because we'll have a steady revenue stream once we build our digital music industry here, and then we can, you know, then weather the crest and the troughs of the movie industry.
Hey Marvin, she's talking.
Right. Well, first I'd like to say, well, if there can be a flight between LA and Shreveport, that would make me going back home to Australia a lot easier. Please do that. So, hi, I'm Esther Kennedy. I'm with Shreveport Common. And for Jeff Everson, obviously mentioned Shreveport Common before, but for those who aren't overly familiar, it's a creative placemaking project just west of here, 9-block area, that puts arts and arts programming at the helm of economic revitalization, among other initiatives. But what it also does is helps to articulate and develop a sense of identity and a shared identity. And my question to you is, what do you think is Shreveport's identity? And you can choose to take this, this is optional, in 5 words or less, or you can just do it. I think it might be cruel, but...
Well, we have, I would say there's something in our water. How about that? There you go. And the reason why is that Shreveport is known for producing the most affluent musicians across the world. And we have a plethora of water for economic development, cheap electricity, and the transportation infrastructure. But what I would like to brand Shreveport on is our music history, from Leadbelly all the way up to our future. Because music people around the world know about Shreveport. And I don't want to get too technical, but tourism is a second stage business, and it's something that we want to grow tremendously. We have a significant African American cultural history here that we've never tapped into, and that's crazy because there's so much money in it. You know, I mean, not only is it fair and equitable, right? That's right. I mean, come on, it's fair, it's equitable. But people, you're crazy. There's so much tourism money in it. Why do you think New Orleans is so much more successful than Shreveport? They've embraced their diversity and they celebrate it. And people go there to enjoy that. Because there's other communities, and I've lived in them all across the United States, that don't have the diversity that we have. So we're going to attract the creative class. We're going to build our second stage business, and I'm not going to stop with Texas Common. I'm going to take it from the Cross Bayou Corridor project all the way across Allendale, Ledbetter Heights, and leading up to Texas Common, because that's what we deserve, and that's what we're known for, and that's Shreveport's true value proposition to us and to the world. Everybody in Europe knows who Leadbelly is because all the rock bands there play his covers. Everybody. Now, so isn't that going to be nice if we get that Virgin American flight from Los Angeles to Shreveport and everybody coming in for our music festivals? Oh yeah, I can. Adam's like, anyway. Okay, so there's just a whole bunch of exciting things on the future. That's all I can tell you, but please support them. Support them. We've got a lot of good events coming in our future, but remember when I told you about I need you to be engaged, right? I'll communicate in your language, I'll tweet. I'll Instagram, okay? But I want you to stay engaged. And it's gonna be great. And I think we'll see it will be a domino effect of outside investment coming in, and we'll see a domino effect of progression.
Hello. Hi, how are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you doing?
Great. My name is Kelly Mills, and I'm afraid Tim stole my question, but I am going to delve a little bit further into it. I'm also a union member of the local 478 IATSE in New Orleans, which covers Shreveport, part of East Texas, and Mississippi as a union-based film organization, which is important to me for my physical safety and well-being, as well as my employment here in Shreveport, Louisiana. So I'm going to ask you, do you have plans to communicate with our union brothers in New Orleans, specifically our BA and our president and our vice president, in making sure that we comply with union-based filming here in Shreveport? I know that you were a teacher, but you were a teacher on non-union based films, and this is something that's very important. People die on film sets every year. It's very tragic, painful deaths, and it's incredibly important that we attract those union-based, OSHA-based, safety-regulated films. Do you plan on communicating with my union?
Absolutely, I'll answer that two ways. First of all, I was a studio teacher, but I was actually never the studio teacher of record. I actually worked for MTV and Viacom in their risk management departments. And the reason why they hired me to come in was to make sure that all the minors on the set, at all times, their physical, mental, sexual, well-being were being taken care of, that they were not harmed in any way, they were not offered a cigarette. And so I'm very cognizant of the entertainment industry, and having worked for risk management, you know, also in film and 2 TV shows. So, and then your second question is, Patrick Williams, my opponent in the primary, got the union endorsements. But since he did not make the runoff, I am very happy to say that I have been supported, or favored, I think is the word, by all the unions, and I got that information a little over a week ago. I am very pro-business because we have to address our economy here, but I am also pro-worker. And I think that's what happened when I went through my union interviews, and why I got the ranking that I got, was that it is extremely important that all the citizens of our city are protected in their health and well-being. Public safety is extremely important. That's a mayor's job. But then also, I will gladly work with unions. So yes.
Hello. My name is Brittany Turner. I moved to Shreveport about 2 years ago from New York. I am a proud Highland resident, and I am privileged to be a teacher in Cedar Grove. Kelly actually gave a great segue. My question has a couple different parts. First, the city of Shreveport has a tendency to fail to fulfill lawfully submitted public records requests in a timely manner. And I'm hoping that you could tell me some concrete plans that you have to enhance their records management program so that the public does have more unfettered access to information. The second part of my question is that the city also has a tendency to have problems with their workforce. And I'm wondering what specific plans you have to support the union and support the workers in the city. And then the final part of my question is, we have a lot of quasi-governmental entities around Shreveport, SHRAC, DDA, the Shreveport Memorial Library. I'm wondering how you could take those plans and extend them to those that the city contracts with and provides grant funding to.
Okay, those are all excellent questions. So there's 1, 2, 3. Okay, so the first one is
Public records.
Oh, public records. That one's gonna be real easy. Right now it's PDF format, and I don't find that acceptable. There are newer 21st century tools that most cities are using. One of my business partners happens to be Azteca CityWorks, which is an asset management system, and I'm so excited. Because when I came in, Jeff's back there talking, but when was it, about 5 years ago, we had the 4 years ago, we had the discussion. I'm a GIS person, so he asked me about pavement management plans, and I said, well, I think you're putting the cart before the horse, because you really need a strong GIS before you get a pavement management plan. But anyway, nonetheless, at the time, I recommended my business partner, which is Azteca CityWorks. And so I was so nervous as, coming in as the new mayor, because I'm very conscious about being transparent and not having any ethics violations. But my business partner has the best software. Well, when I went to interview the IT department, they had already bought it. They just haven't implemented it yet. So woohoo! So the good news is we will be implementing the Azteca CityWorks plan. That's an asset management system where everything will now be ported over the internet. That opens transparency. It functions off of what's called a geo database, and that means that the database is broken up into geographic locations so that you can actually use a turf cutting tool to draw an area of interest. You can then bring up comparative studies on streets, on segments, on polygons, whatever you want to go after all night, which I'm sure you're going to be doing, to get your data. Because one of the things that we forget is government. We are government. We, like us, you. Government owns the data, not the officials, okay? The people own the data, and it's our responsibility to make your data accessible to you. So that's the transparency issue, number one. Okay, help me with number two, I'm getting old.
Workers.
Oh, workers, okay. And one of the things that we've had this discussion several times is that there's not been a strong ethical leadership in the city that passes that pride of culture to the workers. And every worker that I have interviewed, they have it in their hearts to serve. So I will, one, provide them with the professional development and the tools so that they can do their jobs efficiently, but most importantly, we are going to create a cooperative culture, one so that we're going to build a structure very similar to a profit-sharing company in the private sector. So what I'm going to offer to all the city workers is there's going to be, and you know, you've heard me talk about this when I'm talking about cleaning up the contracting process, is a new sidearm to the administrative level is going to be, what's the name of it? Compliance. And it'll have contracting, fraud, and waste, and audit will be in that department. That will be an avenue for city employees to get anything up to the administrative level to report fraud or waste, so that then we can use that savings as line item budgets back to the employees as raises and bonuses, so that they become vested in their work and begin to take true pride in what they're offering our citizens. So it's just increasing that morale and giving them full ownership of what they do every day, because the people I've talked to, they want it. And I think you're going to see a different city hall. Okay, and third.
The last part was how you're going to take those strategies and bring them to the organizations that the city subcontracts with.
Okay, so here's the big announcement of the night. With SHRAC and SPAR and all the quasi non-governmental agencies, we are going to propose having a Department of Cultural Affairs. So that, I see these smiles, I'm so excited. Let me tell you how important that is. What it does is it gets the city all on one page, so we don't have duplicity in all these independent operators, okay? We can bring the city together in that vision and in that goal via the Department of Cultural Affairs equitably and fairly, because what traditionally has been happening is there may be an ordinance where SHRAC will be given some money, and say the Black Cultural Arts Commission is a perfect example. It's $100,000, but then it's treated as a grant, but it's not a grant, because if you look at the ordinance, it's $100,000. So what we're going to do, oh no, I'm sorry, Adam, I'm sorry. So this is what you get for inviting me, okay? Okay, well, I guess y'all are just gonna have to vote for me and see what happens, okay? But anyway, so the big exciting news is Shreveport, the creative class is so important to us. Making sure that we know what our history is, where we've come from and where we're going, and we're gonna pull it all together with the Department of Cultural Affairs to assist those agencies in making sure that we're all on one page with one vision, we're speaking with one voice, and spending our money the most efficient way for the biggest bang for our buck. Okay. I just love your smile.
Oh, thank you. My name is Keith Hansen. I'm the CEO of Twins and Labs. Thank you. I have two questions for you. In a similar vein of transparency, there is and I'm just going to read this real quick. Many have heard of Mitch Daniels, former two-term governor of Indiana and now president of Purdue University. One of the things that he did was bring a transparent dashboard that the entire public can see every week that was updated. I'd be interested in hearing a commitment from you that you would bring that to us as the younger base that would be interested. The second question that I have for you, and I have not told anybody this is the first time that I'm talking about this. The state owes Twins and Labs $50,000 for over a year now in digital media tax credits. So what will you do to ensure that our businesses, which are being impacted today by things that I cannot do because I was relying on those monies coming in, and I have done everything in my business required by the state to get those tax credits. This was offered, I built my business here because of those things. I can go anywhere in the country. So what will you do to help us in Shreveport gain those tax credits that we are legally owed, that we are not getting any feedback from the administration in Baton Rouge on why we're not getting those?
Well, I'm going to answer your first question first. My daughter's a junior at Purdue in chemical engineering, so I'm real excited. I want to meet with the president when I go up there. Azteca CityWorks does have a dashboard.
Awesome.
What's nice for me and all the managers is it's a great way to deploy resources. So, you know, whenever you can make, hello, data-driven decisions. Isn't that cool? Like, instead of just guess, you actually get to make it on actual, real, actionable intelligence and data. So it does have that. I've not seen that ported over the internet, but I have seen where I've worked with police departments in making all their information live over the internet. And we want to do that as part of transparency and in our community-oriented policing. So I will take that to heart and see how we can accomplish that, because that's the biggest thing, is we want to use the tools that we have available to make sure that we're completely transparent so that you get the information that you deserve. You've already paid for it. You own it, and it's your information. Okay, God, Adam, you're so mean. Adam is mean. Okay, second question. One of the things, and this is very common, is...
Real quick, just to clarify, we've been rubber stamped as approved by the state.
Oh, okay.
We should receive the funds.
Yeah, and I don't know why that is, but one of the big things is that have you talked to your state representative and your state senator?
The local economic partnerships here, North Louisiana Economic Partnership, has done those things for us.
Oh, they've talked to them. Okay, and then I'm frustrated. I mean, because that should not be happening. And the only thing that I can say is that I will work on it, but one of the biggest differences that I've noticed by being a vendor for the state is that South Louisiana tends to get a lot more money than North Louisiana. We have got to work together and speak as one voice when we go to Baton Rouge. We've got to stop this. Well, this is mine, and this is mine. I mean, that's kindergarten, it's over with. We have got to speak with one voice when we go to Baton Rouge, because we'll have collective power. And so I promise you that I will look into that for you and all of our business. Oh, that's right. Yes. And you have your parish commissioner here that will look into it as well.
Thank you.
Hello.
Once again, I'm Kristen Reed with Boards of Pilates. My question is, police brutality is at, well, I won't say an all-time high, but the limelight is on it because it's been this way for years. Now we're just speaking about it. As mayor, what do you think your responsibility is, and what will you do to make sure those types of things don't happen here? But I also want to know, just for instance, the officer who put Eric in the chokehold, he just got off. Like, he did not get indicted. And we had the cameras there. Everybody's been talking about cameras, but obviously that doesn't mean anything. So what is it that you can say your responsibility as mayor is to make sure that those types of things don't happen here? And how did you feel about that, him not getting indicted?
Right, yeah, I mean, that's, from what I know, it is obviously very frustrating. What the mayor does is the mayor sets the tone for the city by selecting the department head, which we will be replacing the police chief. And what also we will do is we are going to return to what's called community-oriented policing, where we have our officers morale boosted with the community that they serve. And you have to have, and I'll go back to Ferguson, because I always, prior to this, got asked the Ferguson question, is that was a ticking time bomb, because you had a white police force serving a predominantly black community. That just is not a good way to do business. So what the mayor's responsibility is, not only in the police force, but in every department, is to have diversity and enough to where the services you are providing are reflective of the community that you provide. It must be diverse, equitable, and balanced. The biggest thing that we're doing in the police department is we do have a morale issue right now in our police department. So So we are going to work diligently. I do believe in body cameras. Willie and I were at a forum earlier tonight at Southern University, and that differentiates me from Miss Tyler significantly, in that I believe that you have to have body cameras, you have to have accountability, and you have to have that transparency. So we're going to work on it on a numerous amount of angles, and not only within the department, but we want to build a diverse, fully loving community that Shreveport can be extremely proud of, so that we get rid of a lot of those questions of, well, wait a minute, was I stopped because I'm black and I'm riding my bicycle down the road, or was I stopped, because, I was weaving or whatever. So we need to build a city that is reflective of our population, and I am committed to doing that as mayor. Do you want me to sing?
Thank you, Ms. Provenza.
Thank you.
Really.
I'll talk too much. Oh, wait, I know I'm taking some more time, but listen, we've made history. I've always run to make a difference. I've never run to win. I hope we win, but the main thing to me was running to make a difference. If we win, do you realize we'll be the first elected mayor? We will change the dynamics of politics across the United States, because I've raised a little less than $70,000. So I'll be the first candidate to be elected that didn't have to raise 4 or 5 times the amount of money of the annual salary of the job. And that is extremely important to me, because we leveraged technology and we engaged the people. That's how we did it. We got out there every single day, 16-hour days. I was at Bilberry Park, and this lady came up to me. She goes, "You don't look like your picture." And I was like, well, I took that picture 5 months ago before I had 7 days a week of 18-hour days. So it's kind of changed the way I looked a little bit. But my point is I'm so proud of Shreveport. So you guys give yourselves a hand, because we used e-democracy. We used the old-time political way of getting out there, banging the streets, getting everybody on board, and Shreveport should be really proud of what you've done. A candidate like me could have never made it into the runoff without you. So thank you, Shreveport. Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you, Victoria. And thank you to all the candidates that came out tonight. A big round of applause.
Really, thanks to everybody who came out and made our second event really successful. I'm going to hurry up and say goodbye to all of y'all. You can look for us again in the spring. We will be back.
One thing before Adam dismisses all of you, the candidates have been encouraged to stick around. They will be meeting and greeting you while we introduce our musical guest tonight. So please, if you have any questions that were not addressed during the ceremony tonight, please go up to the candidates, ask the questions. They're here to mingle with you. They're here to talk to you. So I'll let Adam introduce our musical guest for tonight, Nate Tremaine.
That's about all there is to say. We're going to leave you here with Mr. Nate Tremaine. Please stick around, have a drink, talk to your friends, talk to the candidates. Again, thank you all so very much for being here. This couldn't happen without all y'all.